Okay, we're back here now, still with my favorite first friend. I'm gonna call her my first friend, like the first lady, Eileen. And Michael.
Yes.
You're here.
I'm here.
You mentioned that earlier that she asked you 20 questions.
Yes.
She says it was only 12.
Yes.
So I'm going to defer to the lady. So what are the kind of questions you would ask an artist before you represent?
Well, you know, one is, what's the best piece you've ever done? I always ask the question, if money was no object, who would you collect? Who's on your walls? Who are your inspirations?
That's easy.
Well, yeah.
That's easy for me.
Yeah, he cited my favorite artist, so the next thing I know, it was like, you know, I was selling his work.
Yeah.
So what did you say, Michael?
Oh, without a doubt, Charles White is, I'm chasing Charles White. That's who I chase. Biggers is there, but Charles White, for me, in my own mind, he's the greatest. He's the greatest.
I've never seen a Charles White piece that didn't convey emotion, respect. He was just a phenomenal artist. And people walk into the gallery and they want me to choose among the artists I represent. You know, it's always, who's your favorite artist? And my answer is always Charles White.
He's the greatest.
I can't choose among the artists I represent as my favorite. I love them all or I wouldn't represent them.
I love that.
The thing about Charles White that I have to say is that Charles was able to capture some of the things that I'm chasing. He was able to capture the things that you can't draw. That's the special thing about Charles White. When you look at his work, he was able to capture those emotions that you just, yeah, he was special.
It's almost like what's left unsaid tells the whole story.
He was a special artist. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah, and then the time in which he created his work, it's hard now, but it must have been impossible then. And so there really had to be a level of tenacity and fortitude to be able to do that work at that time. You know, it was definitely, he made a contribution that allowed my road to be a lot easier.
Is that, Eileen, one of the things that, as a person who represents an artist, is that the reason why you do it? Do you think that Charles got the representation he needed?
Oh, absolutely not.
Come on, man.
The world's not right now, but it was a very, very different place back then. He got a lot of teaching fellowships, so he was allowed to travel, which helped shape his drawings, helped shape his experience. You know, I think one of the things I look for in artists is sincerity, and I can't explain how I feel that in the work, but it's there. And I think Charles White was just a very sincere artist. He
very honest.
Yeah,
very honest.
He was just amazing.
Who else among the artists that you wish you could have represented that you did not?
Good question.
That is a good question. There's many artists I like for different reasons. I like Biggers for his ability to integrate African imagery, you know, traditional African things with very modern paintings. I love the fact that so much of what Biggers did was so subliminal that, you know, the railroad tracks were going to be there in the painting, but sometimes they were just so faint that you almost didn't see them, but then there they are.
And he used pattern so well, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Pattern was just, oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a whole slew of artists that if I had been around then, I would love to have represented. But mainly because they weren't being represented. It's not just for the quality of their work, it's because people needed to see this work and respect the artist. I mean, that's so much of what I've tried to do.
So as you're almost like a curator of art, and that's what you are. What's the one lament that you have? What's the one thing that you wish you had done or you wish you fix?
I wish I could still take this art, find venues to expose more people to this art all over the country. You know, I want, the wonderful thing about the internet is that I now have people exposed to this art that are going to my website from California and Germany and all these different places. But looking at art on the web and looking at it in person is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I wish I had the time and the money and the people power to be able to just, you know, do shows in California and do shows here. The traditional art shows are still not venues for black artists. It's not that you won't sell some work, it's just you're not getting the people coming through necessarily that really want to, you know, invest in black artists still, which is ridiculous to me. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I still get resistance both from the color of my skin, so, you know, prejudice is prejudice, whether it's, you know, whatever direction it's going in. I'm still asked to justify why, and it's almost always put this way, why this art? Like, you know, because it's art and it's wonderful, and, you know, I don't feel the separation.
So,
but I understand the realities of the marketplace.
So why Michael? What about Michael's work that talks to you?
Besides the fact that he puts details in that, you know, I couldn't even capture with a camera. Even in pieces like his flowers, there's just that underlying, there's feeling there. And that's what I look for in anything. I mean, and now that he's doing some of this, the flag pieces, that just talks to, that type of work is what got me into collecting art.
Okay. So Michael, these pieces that you're speaking of, which are, all your art are statements, but in this new series that you're speaking of, the flag series, what were you, first of all, what prompted you to do it?
Well, you know, as a black male, you're living your life in this world, and you know, you see the level of mistreatment that takes place, and you know you have to respond, not react. You know, and for me, I try to use the gift that I've been given to respond. So this particular body of work started off as more of a, what's the right word? A lamentation almost. I was lamenting, you know, seeing people who look like me killed over and over and over and over again. And so it started there. And is it every 2 years you do civil rights, civil wrongs?
Yeah.
Around there, right?
Around that. So I do some kind of civil rights show at least once every 2 or 3 years.
So I was determined, and I told her, I said, I'm gonna do something totally different. And that this has been, you know, I've been marinating on what's been going on in our culture for a while now. And so it started with, you know, with me wanting to get back into the etching studio. I knew I wanted to do that. And a combination of what's been going on, and then, you know, like it started off as a memorial really, and then it sort of took on more and more, right, as I felt different things. And as I started fielding questions from my students, they're asking me, you know, some of the best questions come from young minds who have not necessarily been corrupted, or their minds have not necessarily been confused to the extent that some of us older, I mean, we're all in a relative state of confusion because we haven't solved the major problems on the planet, but they started asking me questions, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And all of that kind of came into the work.
Now, you explained earlier, and just want you to share with everybody, the pieces are the flag of the U.S. that's upside down.
Yes.
So let's go through that whole representation of what does that mean, and the wordings that are in the stripes of the flag. Can you go through a little bit?
Yeah, sure. The upside down flag is a universal sign of distress. So anytime that you are on a ship in the ocean, or you have a flagpole and you want to communicate SOS or distress, you would run the flag upside down. The white stripes of the flag are made up of names of people who have been killed by police in the last, in the last this period of time in our life. I don't have enough flags to actually write every name. These are names of people that have really had an impact on me, their stories, and how they were killed, how they died, and what took place surrounding their death affected me personally. So those are, in every stripe there's a series of names in the work.
Eileen, when you first saw this work, because it is radically different from things that I was used to seeing from Michael, what was your first reaction?
I was thrilled that he was making his statement in a different way. I was happy that he decided to do things that very much played into the emotional aspect of what was going on in the news, but do it in a way that some art's in your face, some art's more subtle. Michael's art is very subtle, but it still gets the point across. This particular series is very subtle, but it gets the point across. And, as a 60s kid, I was used to seeing the flag upside down as a symbol of, not just distress, but also rebellion.
Yep, yeah.
Excellent. So, Michael, before we end, I'm going to ask you if you had to say something to Eileen, because this is the only chance we can bully her right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take advantage of it. What would you say to Eileen?
It really was 20. No, it's only 12.
Yeah, it would be thank you, because I think there's so few places, and I say thank you on behalf of myself, but I also say thank you on behalf of all the other artists, because there are so few places where Black artists can get their work shown on a consistent basis and have someone to champion their work. That doesn't happen very often. And then the other thing, I know Charlie agrees with me, but it's a family. It's a family of artists. I have met some fantastic peers of mine. I can't tell you what it means to me to have Charlie as a friend. I can pick up the phone and call Charlie anytime I want to. Some of my heroes, Cal, I can call Cal. I can call Paul Goodnight to me, which is like, and those guys I would never necessarily call to bother them, but
I call all of them.
They'll pick up the phone. They will pick up the phone, right? But I would not be in this family, in this space, without this gallery existing. And when I think about the impact that it has on our, as a special education teacher, I think about our young people. And I think about what that means to a 7-year-old me, a 15-year-old me, because I didn't have access to this when I was growing up. So when I think about the fact that so many young Black children and young people get exposed to art that has such richness and depth, and there's such a diversity of different kinds of art, it's really important. And when I say thank you, I also say thank you on behalf of them.
Ashe. as the old folks would say, where I come from. Once again, I want to thank you both, and we're going to take a small pause.